Hi guys, today we're going to be working on this French tip water marble design, and this is something that I've had a ton of requests for, and I'm really pleased with how it turned out. So if you'd like to see the tutorial, just stay tuned. Alright, I'm going to start out by just applying these French tip guides on my nails. You can see I've done most of them. I have just one more on this sheet here. And there's usually about a dozen on a sheet. This is another thing I usually go ahead and use a tweezer for just because it's slightly easier. Still is going to be a little bit tricky, but I'm just kind of aiming to apply it just underneath of my natural smile line and just press that firmly down to each side. And these are not really my favorite. When I do a French manicure, I'm more likely to freehand it because I've had a lot of trouble with there being polish bleeding under the edge of these, even if you think you've got them pressed all the way down. So I'm really going to be using this more as a guide for my water marble than for my French tip. For my base color, I'm just going to use China Glaze White on White. And I'm just going to quickly apply this to the tips of my nails. Kind of, like I said, staying away from that very bottom edge of the guide because I don't want the polish to bleed underneath there. So I've got my tips painted, and they don't have to be particularly neat or even. It's just acting as a background color for the marble. And you want to let that dry for just a few minutes before you go ahead and dip into the water. As far as the taping, the main difference is going to be that instead of applying just below your cuticle, you're going to want to apply just below that guide and cover up the rest of your nail bed. So if you are not already familiar with that process, you can check out my taping tutorial in the Tips and Tricks playlist. Alright, now on to the actual marbling. And the colors that I'm using today I have used before to water marble. They're from the Color Club Halo Hues collection. And the first time I water marbled with them, I used black as a base color. This black hollow is called Beyond. The blue is called Over the Moon. The green is called Kismet. And I'm going to just continue to build my bullseye here. And the main difference between using a black and a white base is that with the black, they actually turn out with a lot more of the holographic effect. And I'll go ahead and include a link to that first tutorial so that you can compare between the two and let me know which you prefer. I mean, the holographic effect is always nice, but with the white base you actually get to see more of the color, which is also nice. So I'm just going to start out my design going from one side to the other. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw in just some very thin petals, keeping the lines quite close to each other. And, well, of course, you can always turn the cup when you're done to get a better angle for dipping. I tried to be mindful of how I'm going to want to dip my nails as I'm drawing, and that just makes it a little bit easier not to have to adjust for that. So I've got those all finished. I've got my nails all prepped here, and I'm going to dip my ring, middle, and index all together. Just going to line them up in the cup, add a little bit of an angle to the design, and then dip in. I'm going to reach in with my orange stick, clean up that excess polish, And make sure to get around all the sides. And then you can slowly pull your nails out. And there's the water marble design. I think I'm going to move the camera and show you guys the removal. Alright, so the first step, like anytime you remove the tape, is just going to be to cut the underside like this. And just basically get a scissors under there and cut that loop. And that's going to allow you to basically peel the tape off. When you get a grip, you want to just be careful, make sure you cut through all the way, and be careful since the design is still wet. So this is a little bit of a close camera angle. Let me just zoom out a little bit here. As you pull it off, the French tip guide should probably stick with the tape and come off at the same time. And there, you're left with just the French tip. So let me take off these other two. And then you'll see that one I did get just a little bit of residue from the guide, as well as a little bit of leftover polish. But as I pull off this last one, you can see I really didn't get very much polish on my skin. And that's just going to depend on how deep into the cup you dip your nails. And I actually did manage to nick this one a little bit with my nail. So, looks like this is an opportunity for polish surgery. I'm gonna grab a very small brush. It's about that big. And the key is just looking at where in the design you've managed to smudge, and then basically just applying some of that kind of polish. So I'm going to get some of the black. I'm just going to pick it up right off of the brush onto my smaller brush and just fill that in a little bit so that you can't see the white anymore. It doesn't have to be perfectly flawless. You have to remember people are not generally going to be looking at your nails this close up. If you think it's necessary, you can touch up with the secondary color as well. That wasn't really a very big fix, but a lot of times I get requests for, well, what do you do if? So that's what I do if I manage to nick the design with my nail. If I get a worse smudge, I'll maybe do a video dedicated just to the polish surgery. But for now, that just about wraps up this one. You're, of course, going to want to seal it in with some top coat. And you're done. So let me know what you guys think of this design. Let me know if you prefer these colors over white or over black. And as always, thanks for watching.